In my pre-professional journey, when I suffered a knee injury right when I was getting an opportunity to go to a very prestigious ballet school. And what did that do? What was the fallout of that? And the people in my life, how did that shape how I approach the next chapter? Spoiler alert, and I think we just said I had a full, wonderful career.
Yeah.
Just because that there was a big setback in the beginning didn't dictate what the rest of my history was moving forward.
This is the Cinematography for Actors podcast.
More than a podcast, Cinematography for Actors is a vibrant community devoted to bridging the gap between talent and crew. Each week, our show offers transparent, insightful conversations with industry leaders. We unveil the magic behind the scenes, from candid discussions about unique filmmaking processes to in-depth technical exploration. Join us in unraveling the intricacies of filmmaking, one episode at a time. It's more than just cameras and lenses. We aim to inspire, educate, and empower as we peel back the curtain on the art of effective storytelling. Now on to the episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome to an episode of the Cinematography for Actors podcast. I am your host, Haley Royal. I am joined today with a pair that I'm so excited to have here because we met at Mammoth and I said, come and we'll do your episode. And then we ran out of time. We had to leave. And so I'm finally getting to make it up to you guys. I'm really excited. Most of the creative team of a short film called Sandpaper, Cameron Auble-Branigan, correct?
Yeah, you did.
Cameron Auble-Branigan and Danny Mooney. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you for being so patient because it was months ago that I promised you an episode.
It's all good.
It's really...
I'm really excited.
We're warmer now.
We're a lot warmer.
There's less than 12 feet of snow on us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Last time we saw each other, we were all in big coats.
Very big coats.
Yeah. And now it's like a nice breeze. Well, not anymore because I had to close the doors. But there was a nice breeze. And we're all in much less clothing. Although you're still in snow boots.
He's always in.
I'm from Michigan.
Are you a boot boy?
I guess.
Okay.
A boot boy.
Boot
Is that
boy.
a thing?
Danny's a boot boy.
Yes,
Boot
I'm a
boy.
boot
I'm
boy.
going to call you a boot boy from now on.
Boot boy. All right. I like it.
I love it. So guys, let's get into Sandpaper. Cameron, you created this. You wrote it.
I did.
You already know that I'm so excited about people who have an idea and then make it happen. This is so exciting for me as well because this was not your original career goal to be a filmmaker, to be an actor. You had a different career goal, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
What was it?
So I used to be a professional ballet dancer. I toured the U.S. for about 10 years, and working for about a dozen. I was kind of a journeyman in terms of all the different companies I guested with. And that was my career up until about a couple of years ago. And it's only been the past couple of years since COVID that I went a full, not 180, because I really feel like there's a lot of parallels between acting, filmmaking, as well as the dance world. And yeah, I'm here. I'm in LA now. Acting, writing, producing, all the things.
You're doing it all. So you acted, you wrote, you produced, and you produced Sandpaper. And it is a story of your life, correct? So from watching this film, I can guess what happened in your career, and
Or
why
part of it,
you felt you wanted to make a shift, or did this shift come after?
Okay, so it's a time in my pre-professional journey when I suffered a knee injury right when I was getting an opportunity to go to a very prestigious ballet school. And what did that do? What was the fallout of that? And the people in my life, how did that shape how I approach the next chapter? Spoiler alert, and I think we just said I had a full, wonderful career.
Yeah.
Dancing in some of the biggest venues in the United States. So just because that there was a big setback in the beginning didn't dictate what the rest of my history was moving forward.
were you worried that it was going to?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And certainly certain doors did shut because of
Right.
that. But just like any industry, there's many ways to have a career.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the roads less traveled are the ones that are for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't go to that school.
Hmm.
Their loss. And you kept dancing. You're a gorgeous dancer.
Thank you.
I know from watching Sandpaper. I guess I should also tell you, maybe I haven't told you, I'm excited to have you here to talk about a movie you made about ballet because my mom was a ballerina.
I remember we talked about that in Mammoth. Yeah.
But I have a question for you.
I have an answer for you.
Forgive me in advance, please, if this is offensive. Because my mother's a very offensive person sometimes. And it's charming on her, but it's not charming. Is there a gender neutral form of ballet dancer? Is it ballet dancer?
I see. It's really interesting that you say that because I see among other things in our culture, there are a lot of shifts happening from an old world mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because a lot of people ask me this question, but it's more of what do you call a male ballet dancer?
This is where I'm going.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. So I'll just jump right into it.
Okay.
And here in English speaking country, usually it's just male ballet dancer or ballet dancer.
Okay.
Ballerina is a feminine. Yeah. Also, certain countries they say ballerino to talk about masculine.
I was wondering, is that offensive?
No.
Okay, great.
Because honestly, like, I don't know. I don't give a crap.
That was my mom's way of like being like the ballerinas and the ballerinos, and I was like, I'm not. Is that actually what we're saying, or is it just like her little like quirky thing that rides on like almost causing a problem?
And then there's also the added that there's some ballet dancers that are gender neutral or have transitioned. And so just like everything else in our world today, we have to be aware of who we're addressing.
Yeah. Are there women presenting ballet dancers who prefer to be called a ballet dancer? Like, you know how actors are making the switch kind of to like, it's not an actor and actress, we're all actors. Right. And that's fine. Is there anything like that happening in the ballet world?
Well, I don't want to speak to that because that's not my my perspective. My I don't see the world in that way, so I'm not going to speak to someone else's perspective. But I'm sure that there are people who
are dancers
that are just dancers.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for clearing that up in my head because it's been years of me being like, is she causing a problem when she does that? Great. I can move on and live my life.
I'm so
Whoa. Okay, so let's talk about your decision to create this. So you danced some more, and now you have this story, this beautiful story of how you moved through something that was very painful, I'm sure, and had this beautiful career anyway. And now you have this gorgeous outlook on life that, like, one thing is not going to stop the rest of your life from happening for you. When did you decide to start writing? And did you have any experience in writing? What was that first day of being like, I'm going to write this? Like, what did you do?
Yeah. I moved to LA about 2.5 years ago. God. It went by so quick.
Yeah.
For me, I came here with a few friends that I knew and a few contacts, and I wanted to get representation and I wanted to start going out for things. And, I was ready. I was just feeling ready. And I didn't have really any credits. I did a couple commercials, a couple short films, but not much else. And so when I would have meetings with reps, they'd say, I can't do anything with this, which I completely understand. This is a business. But in the moment, I was a little frustrated because how am I gonna what am I gonna do? And I also knew that I had a lot of stories. You know, we're both living storytellers. And for me, I said, "Oh, I have this story about this young man who went through something similar that I went through." And I have been reading a lot of scripts, so I knew the format. I didn't have, I was just using it in just like a Word document, and I was like trying to make it look right. This was before I knew about Final Draft. And so I wrote a first draft of what later became Sandpaper, and I started workshopping that in my own classes. And I would get feedback, and I would make another draft, and then I'd take it to a neighbor who reads scripts for a living, and then I got some feedback from them, and then I took it to another person I trusted, and then somebody was like, "You should write this in Final Draft." I'm like, "Oh, I think it might have been no, it wasn't you.
I can't remember.
It might have
It
been.
might have
It might
been.
have been." So I was workshopping it with a few friends, making notes, taking changes, making new drafts. Got Final Draft finally, and after a few months, that's when I met this guy at a Fourth of July party, and I told him about the project, and I told him about the script that I wrote, and my decision to make it into a short film kind of happened because of the feedback I was getting. And I realized that it was something that people really resonated with. And it was also about subject matter that not a lot of people know the nuances about it, especially coming from a male ballet dancer's point of view. And so it was around July. I met this guy at a 4th of July barbecue. We talked about it. He read it. His schedule opened up. I'm just going to talk about
Go
the
for
show
it.
for the whole
Yeah.
hour. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and yeah, we just kind of made it happen.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I love that you just tried to make it work in a Word document, because that is literally what I'm doing right now. And I'm so intimidated by screenwriting software. So how did you figure that out? Did you self-teach yourself how to write in Final Draft, or did somebody mentor you through it?
Nobody mentored me on it. I figured it out. Luckily, there's YouTube University.
Yeah.
There's I mean, once you start learning the keystrokes, it's very intuitive
Great.
for me, and it's a lot easier than doing it in a Word document
Yeah.
for sure.
You did it, dude.
I did it.
Okay, you wrote
I
the
did it.
thing.
I wrote the thing.
And then you met Danny, which this is something that I want to talk about too, is we talk a lot about the importance of community, finding people you like, and finding people you want to create things with. And it's so great that you met at a 4th of July party.
Yep.
And that Danny, you said, send it to me. I'll take a look, send it to me.
Yeah, totally.
And then what was your process after that? You see the script and you think, okay.
I mean, right off the bat, I just loved the world. Like we're just standing on a hill overlooking all of LA and watching just fireworks like pepper around all of LA and just chatting about it. And I thought just the world of ballet is so cool, and it's something that I've been a fan of, but I didn't know a lot about, which I think a lot of the world kind of falls in that category. But I had an athlete background and I had sat in on some ballet classes in Russia when I was over there doing theater and stuff. And but also too, I was a hockey player growing up, so I had also like battled injuries and stuff through college, and a little bit of pro and stuff. So we had a lot that we really connected on in terms of that journey and like what injuries can do and what speed bumps on your journey can mean for you and all that sort of stuff. So I identified with it, but I also was just super curious about like peeking behind the curtain into that world. And so right away I was just like, yeah, shoot it over, man. It sounds awesome.
Yeah. So cool. Also, you reminded me that you have an athlete background. You have an everything background. I did read the bio that you sent me, and
the 5-page bio.
Yes, the entire life bio. And Danny Mooney, God, I'm so glad you have that, because is this the result of incredible parents, or is this the result of just an incredible mind? Because from your bio, it just seems like you went, I want to do that, and then did it a million times in so many different areas. It's so exciting to like see all the different avenues that you have tried, and not just tried and been like, it's not for me. You have tried and succeeded in so many multiple areas.
Thank you.
And I'm not here to like hand you an award. I'm just saying, where does that come from? Do you know?
I think of between that mind and parents equation, I would probably say parents. I
Yeah.
think like my dad comes from computer software engineering and like systems administration, so he's a very engineering minded person, but with like the creativity within that. And then my mom wrote children's books while I was growing up and kind of did photography. She did some theater in college in England, stuff like that. And so I was lucky enough to kind of get both parts of their brains, but then also get the encouragement from them to go down whichever avenue I wanted to bob and weave through.
Right.
So I got super lucky in that respect. But
And they're
yeah,
also the nicest people.
yeah, my
You know?
parents, I lucked out, man. My parents are awesome. And I was originally in college for engineering, and on like day three, I was like, this was a life mistake. What am I doing here? And I called my parents and they said, they're like, when was the last time you were happy? And I was like, probably when I was on stage, like acting in high school. And they're like, then why are you in the engineering department? They're like, it's on the same campus. Like, get over to the theater department. And so that sort of encouragement, I feel like, is rare and it's not lost on me. Like, I don't take it for granted. I was super, super lucky that they see the world like that, encourage me like that.
That's so amazing. I love them.
Me too.
Okay, and then also, what is the mindset when you're in college and you have all these other classes to sneak into another class that you're not matriculated in?
Mm-hmm.
You just like walked into a film class and you were like, yeah, I'll sit here for a few and I'll keep coming here. I'm not getting credit, but what was that about in college?
I just followed my parents' direction, and I literally
Yeah.
like marched across the engineering quad to the theater school, and I was like, "I'm here to be a student of yours," and they were like, "Cool, you have to audition." And I'm like, "I'm on it," and they're like, "Here's your date," and they handed me a date, and it was 2 years from that day, and I was like, "I should be halfway through college at that point," and they're like, good luck. And I was like, sweet. And so I kind of went back and I didn't know what to do. And then I had the weird idea of like, if I did filmmaking, I could cast myself in things, which I almost never do. The idea was a great one that's not always follow throughable. But yeah, so then I ended up in the film school, but I was still technically an engineering student for a year because of my scholarship. So I just sat in the back awkwardly, and every day they told me to leave, and every day I would just kind of be like, okay, see you on Wednesday. And they're like, that's not what I said. And then yeah, that professor eventually overrode me in, and then he was like he oversaw my whole track and like was he like oversaw my senior thesis and everything. And yeah, I owe a lot to him.
What a
Professor Rayer, shout
hero!
out.
Wait, say
Yeah.
his name again?
Robert Rayer, Professor Rayer, man.
Robert.
Yeah.
Robert Rayer.
It takes
Well
a
done.
village, man. Like my parents, like professors like that.
Yeah.
It's important.
But it's also probably really inspiring to see a kid who keeps coming. They're literally telling you to leave.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'll just sit here quietly. Like, I'll just learn and then finally break them down. Speaking of professors, let's go back to Sandpaper.
Mhm.
There's a moment in this film that makes me so angry. There are moments in this film throughout that we need to talk about.
All right.
But one that made me so angry is head of school. Going back to, did this really happen? You go back head of school, you're talking to this person, trying to get your spot back after your injury, and they tell you that if you drop a piece of pottery, it's broken. And it will never be as strong as it
No,
was for.
what wasn't quite like that.
Thank God. Because I was like, has this asshole ever heard of kintsugi? Because sometimes it can be stronger. I was so mad. I was so angry, and I'm so glad that didn't actually happen.
That's hilarious.
Beautiful moment.
And beautiful actor too.
Oh,
Oscar
yeah.
Best.
Oscar
Yeah.
Best.
That guy's
The
incredible.
best. Yeah.
He was just in a Mark Wahlberg movie.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
just out. Also a ballet dancer.
Also, former professional ballet
Yeah.
dancer.
Yeah.
Could they actually tell it was your left leg?
Yeah.
Like you were like, which leg was it? And they're like,
Well, that I didn't say that, but like at that point, everyone knew.
everyone knew.
Everyone
Okay.
knew.
All right. So you're an incredible storyteller because I was like, this is exactly how it happened, and I hate this guy. So much so that at the end, when like the thing happens, and you smile, I was like, punch that guy. That guy was a dick.
But I also wanted to keep it open to be like, oh, what happens now?
Yeah,
Does he
what
get back
happened
in?
next?
You know, yeah.
Absolutely,
Just a
yeah.
little bit of like, what was? Oh, there's some respect there.
Yeah.
To something happening.
Okay, we are stoked to shout out our audio sponsor, Deity Microphones. Their S-Mic 2 Pro shotgun mics have impeccable sound clarity, directionality, headphone monitoring, and a user-friendly design. And we're proud to launch our studio with them. Our goal is to bring you educational gems every episode, and with these mics, you can listen to the best quality audio possible wherever you are. To learn more about using Deity mics for your own podcasting, voiceover, or filming needs, go to deitymic.com.
We have some exciting news. CFA has teamed up with We Make Movies to get you a discount on production management services, including access to comprehensive production insurance and workers' comp for your next shoot. Visit wemakemovies.org/insurance and use code CFA23 on your intake form for 10% off your quote.
No, that was an incredible element. Okay, so I want to talk technically now about some decisions that you made.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of jumping and a lot of spinning and a lot of turning, and especially like injury is in the log line, right? And for some reason, I'm a person who, right before the injury happens, I want to pass. Like, I wish I would go to sleep instead of watch this moment. For some reason, it really gets me. And so you had unsettling sound design.
Dave Feenup, he's a pro.
Dave.
Yep.
Absolutely, like, chalkboard nails for me, because I was like, I know it's gonna happen. Like, I just was like, ugh, the whole time. I wanted to close my eyes. My hands were just, like, over my face. So again, incredible storytelling. And then there were shots jumping back and forth from like healthy body to how do these legs land this time? Healthy body, is it this time? The teasing was what was the conversation around this decision?
The decision of like that scene or the whole
of how are we building up to and showing the moment of injury?
I think a lot of it, if I remember, it was, I mean, because it was on the page, but it's also a tricky thing to shoot because it's like, you know, if you just kind of like waltz right in there and he busts things, there's kind of you kind of lose that energy flow and ramp, and so
you have to make people shudder, like you
for
did.
sure.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is like Cam and I just had to really like be on the same page of like kind of knowing how we were going to structure that editorially and kind of work our way backwards into it.
Yeah.
And make Cam do 4,000 double tours in one day, and just kind of know that like it's gonna like start small and like we kind of knew where the sound design was gonna go, and then Dave took it even past where our imaginations were, and then the things breaking was when he first sent us that, both of us kind of like oh gross, that's the one.
when we
That's
figured
the one.
out the noise, the sound
Like the
of
pop.
the pop.
Yeah.
That really makes it, and every time we send it to a festival and we see it screened, the reactions from it.
Very effective.
It's very
visceral.
It's
yeah.
incredibly effective.
And it's layers of different noises.
It's like Cam and I having chats with Dave, going over, because I had ripped a hip flexor in lacrosse. He did that twice in his life. And us trying to say, like, here's what it sounds like in your body when you pop something off of another thing.
Yeah.
And like, I think it was a knuckle crack combined with a chicken bone crack, like actually snapping some of the ligaments in a chicken bone. But all that kind of combined into a nice, succinct little puke in your mouth moment. Yeah.
Truly sickening. Just like, well done there. I also want to talk about, I'm very lucky because I had some time to do a lot of research and I listened to your podcast, Cameron has a podcast. And you two did an episode together and you spoke about your decision on camera choice and lensing. And I thought that was very interesting, especially for our audience. So let's talk about the choices that you made there and the conversations you were having about why you chose what gear.
Yeah, totally. So shout out to Benji Dell, who's a mutual friend.
Benji
we
Dell,
just found out.
know him.
Benji Dell, the best.
Cool guy.
Really good
So
guy.
Benji and I went to film school together. So we knew each other all the way back at University of Michigan. And we had just always kind of chatted about trying to find something to connect on. And And when this popped up, I was like, this might be the thing. And Benji happened to have like a window open in his schedule to shoot it. And so it was just super fun for him and I to get to like get back together and get the band cruising again. But yeah, so the gear that we ended up choosing, and some of it was also like at the behest of having not a lot of money and seeing what Benji had in his kit. But Benji's got great gear, and also like, you know, if we needed to go elsewhere, it's like obviously very important. But the stuff we kind of ended up with, the ideology was have very cinematic camera. So we ended up going just with an Alexa and Alexa Mini. But then the lensing on front of that, we really wanted something that we could play zooms on to almost kind of give it more of that dock feel. And Benji just kind of put in like, you know, servo zooms and stuff like that, so he could literally play the zooms while he was hand holding.
He was operating as well.
Correct. Yeah, he was either hand holding or a lot of it was easy rig for him. But he wanted to be able to play it, and he's so good at just being intuitive. And like, I always say the word dance, but it's a dance between a camera operator and a performer. And so for the ballet parts, literally he's kind of a part of the choreography. And even just for like a quiet, you know, dialogue scene, Benji would feel out those moments to like just touch on the zooms and like breathe a little bit and like close a little bit and find his way through a scene, which was just beautiful. So we ended up, we had to find lenses that were light enough to handheld, because that was the other thing, is we knew we were handhelding, and a lot of those
moving and
totally
dancing.
Yeah. And so we ended up with these zooms. I think they're called DZOs. Benji's probably gonna like send me a text and hate me for this. I think they're called DZO zooms. They're out of China, and they're actually fairly new, but they have a very vintage look to them. So they have a lot of character and stuff, which we kind of love. They kind of gave it almost like a 16 millimeter kind of vibe. And so pairing these kind of vintagey small zooms, and we shot 95% of the movie on 2 zooms. It was a wide zoom and a long zoom. And then there's one scene when Cam passes out, and we at that point took a super speed prime and floated it in front of the camera. We didn't attach it. And that kind of like, you know, lets in little light leaks, and it kind of like shifts your focal plane and stuff, and played into Cam being knocked out. Sorry, are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. Cam was fucking knocked out. but that really happened in real life. So like, I mean, like, you know, he passed out when he heard, and so like he was going through a lot, and so like Benji and him kind of playing that moment and finding it together was super beautiful. So that was kind of the ideology behind it, is like marrying cinema with doc lensing and letting Benji and Cam feel out the moments.
And was there a decision with that as far as like creatively with the ballet?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we wanted to really be able to flow with the ballet and flow with the choreography, and make sure that Benji could like accommodate on the fly. Because it was also the shooting. We shot a 30-minute piece in 3 days, so it's like you're flying, and so being able to really feel things out in the moment and make quick adjustments, and like having 2 zooms, like 50%, you're going to be on the right zoom already when something happens. So like that's a good thing, because when you're swapping primes all day, it's time. And then shout out to our first AC Bryce too, because he didn't have a mark in the movie. Like we know
there's no marks.
There's no marks in the whole movie.
There's a lot of movement in this movie.
And Bryce, he just sit there and rip sharp to the monitor. He's a monster.
Amazing.
So also a U of M alumni, and also was on the roller hockey team for Michigan, which I was too, which is a total. Wow. We didn't even know each other before the shoot. It's so random. He knew me from the roller hockey program. So like very strange, but it was awesome. So yeah, great camera team is worth its weight in gold.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is something that you said on Cameron's podcast that I want to bring up, that some of the decision to choose those lenses and put them on that camera specifically, is that you wanted to show the athleticism in ballet. Like, yes, ballet is this beautiful, they make it look very easy kind of sport, but it is a sport.
Totally.
So like there's the beauty, if I'm remembering correctly, the beauty of the Alexa Mini, and then the grit of these lenses that you chose maybe together kind of will show that. And I thought that was really cool. So,
that was some of our chats early on.
It said here.
Early on we really wanted to like portray really what it was like, you know, behind the curtain, and then showing just how much these athletes like really have to push. And it's an impact sport. Like you're impacting every time. And honestly, like when you're doing something exactly the same over and over again, it's worse on your body than like these other impact sports where you're getting hit a little different every single time, you know? And so Cam and I, like early on, were saying like we really wanted to make sure like that it's portrayed as a gritty.
And while we have a second, I also want to shout out to Danny Safka
Yeah, for
because
sure.
she was the one who brought up both of us together, and she was also a producer on the film as well.
Also ballet dancing.
Also a ballet dancer as well.
Also has had 2 ACLs done too.
Also had an ACL done.
I wanted to ask you actually, how'd you feel after the day of 4,000 double tours?
Oh, like crap.
Yeah.
I felt terrible.
And how are your knees?
Knees are fine. You know, it's one of those things where luckily I've had a long enough time dancing where you can keep doing something and keep being physical and being at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, and still be absolutely dead tired.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily that next day was an off day, and the day after that was very minimal dancing. But yeah, I don't think I've ever done as many double tours in one day as I did for Sandpaper.
Yeah,
that was a lot.
It's not an easy move either.
And
ice bath.
And anybody that I talked to was like, "Yeah, we were all scared that you were gonna do something on that day.
It's gonna happen again
Yep.
on the day we're
Yep.
taking you to the hospital.
Yep.
It's now the movie's over.
Yep.
No, thank goodness
Yep.
it's not. There was one more.
Or did you want me to finish that gritty thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically at the end of the day, Cam and I just like it was a very early discussion of just like portraying the grittiness behind the dancing and like the real athleticism and the strive and just grit that it takes to get through it, and not just show the beauty, because on the outside on stage it's gorgeous and it looks amazing, but you just don't realize like the insane amount of training and athleticism to get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean,
pushing through pain, like that's just
exactly.
part of the thing is like, oh, your feet are gonna be messed up forever now, and you sometimes have an injury. You're just like gracefully moving through. Yeah. It's wild.
It's wild. And also another big reason why I wanted to make it, and both of us had this conversation early on, was a lot of what's portrayed in film and TV when it comes to ballet and dance in general is really not representative of what it actually is like to do that art form.
Right.
You know, it's either very dainty and very pretty, or it's psychotic and mental and backstabby.
Yeah.
It's very opposite ends. And so we wanted to show more of the reality of it. Yeah. It's very gritty. It's a contact sport. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into it. There is, but it's, you know, it produces a product that's very aesthetically pleasing. And also there are people involved. You know,
there is humanity.
There's humanity to it.
It's highly competitive, but you find the people in it. Right.
It's so interesting when a movie comes out or a TV show comes out where dance and ballet is the focal point. I can't tell you how many people come to me and be like, "Hey, I just saw insert show or movie. Man, those ballet dancers, they're so crazy, aren't they?" And it's like, well, there's a certain lunacy you have to have, but just like any other career where you're passionate about. And to your point, there's a certain humanity that people can't relate to. And I think that's part of the reason, among other things, why people aren't going to see dance as much, or dance is not funded as much. You know, we you know, dancers have the same rigor as a professional athlete, but we get paid peanuts for that work.
Because it's hard to see. Like the art form even is. It makes it hard to see the humanity.
But also there's not as many sponsors. There's not as many, you know, it's a very antiquated way of thinking about art. That just people aren't interested in.
Go to more ballet, guys. It's watch what they do. It's awesome. And then try to do it and then go watch the ballet again, because
it's
Let me ask this too.
Incredible.
Do you think, is it also because like ballet is so quantifiable, where it's like you're either nailing it or you're not, whereas like if you're in a football game, or maybe I should say another sport, like a soccer game, it's like that guy's getting goals, he's worth what we're paying him. Or like, oh, but he's not getting goals, but he's getting assists. Or like, oh, that guy's a playmaker, even though he's got not. There's like all these levels of what your value is, and I feel like in ballet, it's like you're either nailing it or you're not nailing it, you know? I
Yeah.
don't know. Do you think it's kind of like that? Is that maybe part of it?
Part of it is that, but also there are enough differences in which, yeah, it is hard to qualify that, but there's also so many other things, just like a soccer player or an American football player. You know, we love seeing the quarterback talk about plays and how much they have to do on any given Sunday.
Right.
And the process, we love it. And then you see them get beat up, and then they come back, you know, at the last 2 minutes, and then they get the field goal, and everyone's happy, you know, like there is a certain, yes, results driven, but there's no scoreboard in ballet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's more of an aesthetic, personal art, you know, how we perceive it.
Subjective in so many ways.
Yeah, it's very subjective, just like any art form, but it's a weird mix. So it's something I always think about a lot, especially now when we're trying to make Sandpaper and into something bigger, into a series. How to demonstrate that distance between the physical and the art, and how do you make that into an industry that can keep going forward.
Okay, yay, Sandpaper's going to be a series. Let's talk about this. This is so... Did we hear it here first?
I probably alluded to it in other...
It's on its way.
It's on its way.
Yeah.
You heard it here as well. Sandpaper's going to be a series. Where are you in that process?
Well, right now I'm working on character arcs, development of seasons. I have a few drafts of some of the episodes. The pilot is kind of where I'm spending most of my time on, in terms of just Sandpaper. Tweaking it, seeing what plant seeds in it so that people guess what they want. Yeah, just being creative about it and how to best show more reality and more humanity in the dance world. And have it be accessible and people enjoying it, so it doesn't seem like another, okay, I'll name it Black Swan or Tiny Pretty Thing. So it's not those types of shows. And
yeah,
hopefully people can relate to it.
I'm really happy to hear this. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On having a creative idea, completing a creative idea, and now growing with it, really. How can people find you and follow along and eventually find a series? And how can they watch Sandpaper if they want to?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Cameron AB 123. TikTok, Cameron AB. I also have my website, the CameronAB.com. I also have the Cameron AB podcast, which shouts out to Cinematography for Actors, because it is not easy making a podcast at any level. You know, I try to do it just with myself, and
it's a lot of
yeah.
Your podcast is great though.
Thank you.
I listened to it.
I'm really happy that you did. It's a little bit of a labor of love, but it's definitely a labor for me, especially when I have so many other things.
You're writing a series.
Yeah, but I'm also just trying to survive and live my life, and I have a couple episodes that I have yet to get to, but you know, shouts out to Cinematography.
Yeah, you guys are killing it.
Thanks, guys. Is there a festival coming up? Where can we find Sandpaper? Do we have to wait? We can wait.
What do you think?
We haven't really figured out. We're still on the festival journey right now. So it's like at the moment not publicly available, but someday when it kind of gets to that point of like festivals kind of like are done, we have to figure out what we want to do with it.
Yeah.
Festival announcements on Instagram, probably?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We'll have that.
Follow and see if you are near a festival or going to a festival where Sandpaper will play. And Danny Mooney, how can people follow you, get involved, find out about your next venture that you'll win an award on?
I don't really do social media. I'm on the other end of it, but like you can always find me on all those places. Like I have profiles that I don't post on and stuff. So if you ever want to watch an empty profile, you can go to the Danny Mooney on anything. And
there's also a lot of stuff that you've created. People can
true.
go to IMDb and search for your name and find some things
There
to
you go.
watch.
Yeah, you can go down that list and find stuff.
Lots of
Watch some
stuff.
things.
Find
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
So cool to talk to you guys today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
It's inspiring. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Join us in bridging the gap between talent and crew. Start by subscribing on your preferred podcast platform, sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date on vendor discounts, community events, and new podcast releases, and educate yourself through our free course releases on YouTube. It all starts at cinematographyforactors.com. And if you like this episode, consider leaving a review to make it easier for other listeners to find us.